guys, we are back for another Dokkan battle video. So, the Ultimate Red Zone got an update. We had 2 red zones released during the 7th anniversary on JP. It was now several months ago, start of the year. We had 14 stages. There was 7 for each stage. Here for the Worldwide Download Celebration, we got a new red zone, which contains Wicked Bloodline bosses. And these Wicked Bloodline bosses, there's 5 of them. Now, there's really powerful characters running around right now. LR Final Form Cooler, right? LR Goku and Vegeta, 7th Anniversary LRs, right? Units like this, Vegeta and Trunks. It's like, I do feel as though these Wicked Bloodline stages are underrated a little bit because the characters right now are just way better than what we had at the start of the year, right? Back when the Red Zone first came out, all these 200% leaders, all these ridiculous units running all over the place, we didn't have. So these stages just felt way more oppressive, right? But it's like if you really, start using different teams and test them out against a lot of these stages, you will quickly see that these Wicked Bloodline Red Zone stages are not underwhelming. And if they would have made them any harder, people would have been crying very hard. So, yeah, let's just jump into it. I will say that Cell Max would be one on this list, but Cell Max is not a red zone fight. But Cell Max would be one. I do think Cell Max is the strongest fight in the game. Cell Max just hits so hard, and it's like he's double supering, and he just has so much health, right? It's crazy going into that fight. All right, so we'll start out here. Let's just get a bunch of the free pass fights out of here. Legic, you suck, you're weak. Turles is not tough at all. Lord Lude is a very, very free fight. Lord Slug is piss easy. Then we get to, I think, the first Wicked Bloodline stage, Mecha Frieza and King Cold. I would actually slide them in right here at number 15. So they are very, very, very low down. If we head over here, it's very easy to see. Mecha Frieza and King Cold, the final phase right here, their super attack damage is in the 700,000s, which is just pathetically easy. Let's go ahead and slide in. I think Android 13 is probably slightly tougher than them. If we take a look at Android 13, let's look at his damage, right? Android 13's at 900,000 by himself. But then, he's got the double AGL phase. But I feel like this opening phase is definitely a little bit more difficult, right? These Frieza soldiers are doing nothing, right? Like, only this one can even super attack. And look at this, 250,000 is a super attack damage? Like, come on now. This is a ridiculously easy fight. King Cold can seal you, but you could use dodging characters in here. Remember, against Android 13, you cannot dodge. Android 13, the fight was designed, I think, in, honestly, a pretty poor way, right? Because of the fact that he goes AGL into AGL, which just makes it very easy to sort of crush him with a full tech team. But, him canceling dodge, it certainly is a difficult ability you have to go through. You guys know that I will frequently say, I think dodge is the strongest mechanic it's the strongest thing you can do. Because outright, if the boss cannot hit you, you can't lose, right? You don't lose if the boss can't hit you. So, 13 disabling dodge, I think, and doing a little bit more damage makes him a harder fight than Mecha Frieza and King Cold. Mecha Frieza and King Cold, I guess they just wanted to, you look at like the Cooler movies, Cooler was a huge threat in his movies, right? Frieza on Namek, ridiculous, struggle of a battle for Goku to get through. But Mecha Frieza and King Cold were just like pussies who got sat down in a second. I guess Dokkan just wanted to sort of emulate that, right? So one of the 5 stages is very, very easy. Next, we have the original Cooler fight. So this is one where we fight Cooler's Armored Squadron and stuff like that. This came out, during the 7th anniversary on the movie side. He's tough, right? He could do some damage, but, he's not the craziest ever. Damn, crazy. Rildo is 12. My God. Dude, Rildo can be a really tough fight because he locks, right? Dude, it does show you these red zone stages are definitely tough. Like, it's like, yeah, you could go in there with Final Form Cooler and Carnival Goku and Vegeta and Trunks and you're, oh my God, this stage is supposed to be hard. Well, yeah, it is, but it's like you're using the most busted characters in existence, right? That Rildo fight is tough though. Next, I would actually slide in Ice Shenron. This is for the Shadow Dragons. The Shadow Dragons, I do think, can be a bit of a tough fight, but here's the thing with the Shadow Dragons. It goes on so long. I think this is the second longest fight. Only, I think the new Wicked Bloodline Full Power Frieza fight is actually a bit longer. You are going through this for so long, and then at the end of it, Ice and Nova, they're not even at 1,000,000 damage, right? They're not even, like, it's crazy. You look at this now, and it's like, oh yeah, he's only doing 950,000, dude. Think about the fact that Cell Max essentially does double damage what Ice Shenron does, right? Like, that's a good way to sort of look at it, right? I am just not impressed by this fight. But, you know, Ice can lock at the end. Nova does hit pretty hard a lot of characters in the game, right? If you get caught, you get caught, right? It can be up there. So I think from this point on, the stages definitely take an increase in difficulty. Next here, I think we grab Baby. I think Baby is a pretty tough fight, right? You guys know about, you know, he goes into his grade 8 mode. He does these AoE normal attacks all over the place, which do massive, huge gobs of damage. What is his AoE attack? Is, 313,000. Considering that he can do this, like, what can he do? 7 times per turn. You know, imagine he does this 5 times in slot 1. All these busted characters that get huge amounts of defense on super attack and stuff like that can get turned into silly putty before you even get a chance to attack. Baby can be a real threat, and he does do essentially 1,000,000 damage on super attack, and he stuns you too. So if he supers in slot 1, you know, before you attack, that first character is not going to be able to attack, which can be a problematic as well. I do think the Baby fight is definitely tough. Next, we'll go ahead and grab our boy Super 17. Super 17, some of these fights that are just like very short and quick can actually be very difficult, because when the bosses are hitting this hard immediately, it can get pretty tough, right? Like you jump in here on turn 1, these two androids are hitting you for over 600,000, right? And then Super 17 is hitting over 1,000,000, and he absorbs Ki Blast super attacks. He can be a very problematic fight if you're not careful, right? For sure. Next, then we would grab Janemba here. Janemba is a pretty basic fight. He's just strong, pretty much is how we like word Janemba, right? He does 1,000,000 damage in his rage mode, 860 damage in his, you know, sort of just like int super version. But he doesn't really have any uber busted mechanics. He can dodge, but I feel like I've almost never like felt his dodging. Like, it's not like, oh my god, he keeps dodging. It's Omega. Dude, y'all know, for some reason, Omega's the one who's dodged, and it's been very frustrating. Probably because he's a much harder fight, right? But Omega, you know, his dodging seems more oppressive than what Janemba's doing. And Janemba's only got the 2 phases, right? This 50 million HP he's got right there, that's 1 health bar. Janemba definitely, you know, a tough boss, but, you know, there's now tougher. Now, this is where it does get tough. Next, I would actually grab Bojack. So far up to this point, we're at 7 right here, and I do think we've pretty much accounted for, pretty much all of the old fights. But, like, okay, so the Wicked Bloodline is 5 fights, and only one of them is on here at 7. I think a lot of these new fights are just very, very difficult. So Bojack can be a very tricky fight. Bojack doesn't quite hit 1,000,000 damage, but, you know, it does do a lot. But he does guaranteed seal and guaranteed lock every turn. Very tough to play around. You guys should know, these bosses that seal you, it is just very tough to deal with, right? Bosses putting the seal on you. Because when they seal you, all these big characters are getting huge amounts of defense these days when they're actually like super attacking and stuff like that, right? So if you have these bosses that are consistently just, you know, sealing you and stopping you from getting your super attacks off, LR Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, right? I don't know, LR Final Form Cooler, you just literally go down like every single character, right? They get sealed, and this can be hugely problematic. And then, of course, the lock, right? The lock makes it very terrifying to bring any AGL characters whatsoever into this fight. All in all, I consider Bojack a monstrously difficult fight, but it's like these newer Wicked Bloodline fights are just way tougher, man. Like, you know, it's like the only reason I feel like many people, including me, we're kind of like, yeah, these don't really feel that bad, is because Cellmax exists, and we've already fought Broly, and then now we have way more options on these teams than we did previously, right? Okay, so next we'll get into, I think the first of these Wicked Bloodline stages, the real ones, right? Mecha Frieza, again, is a pussy down there. Alright, so we have Full Power Frieza. Now, I feel like you could probably make an argument maybe to get Full Power Frieza up, or maybe even, I don't know about moving him down. I don't think I would put Bojack above Frieza. Would I? I don't know. I've found, so what happens here is, this is a free pass, right? This, every once in a while, can catch you, because Full Power Frieza's text. You want to bring int characters. Oftentimes you get to this phase right here before you're set up, so he can catch you, right? Typically, even an LR Namek Goku, in my experience, Rainbow level 10 links, can just eat a raw super attack from this guy and you'll live, even if Namek Goku has had 0 super attacks, right? So it's like, this guy does do an AoE attack here, but his damage is not really that high. But it's like, I have had runs crushed by this second form Frieza. Third form Frieza is not really too crazy. The AGL final form is also not really too crazy, but he does double super at 750,000, can be problematic. But the problem with him supering is that he stacks attack, which then goes over to Full Power Frieza. So it's like, Full Power Frieza does 380,000 damage if Final Form Frieza hasn't supered, right? This guy's damage is 1.4 million if Final Form Frieza hasn't supered. If Final Form Frieza gets, 3, 4, 5 super attacks off or some shit like that, you're in trouble. And Full Power Frieza gets very, very threatening. He can be very tough. I do think, yeah, Frieza's probably the toughest tech boss in the game now, Full Power Frieza. I would think so, yeah. I do think this is tougher than Bojack. Because it's like, you just look at the damage. Frieza is doing like, at minimum, he's doing like 500,000 more damage than Bojack, right? Bojack's at 975. Frieza's at 1.44 million, but that's probably even higher because he's stacking his attack in final form. So it's like, Full Power Frieza can be very tough, but this is the longest red zone fight, right? So I believe this is longer. Well, let me see. So the Shadow Dragons. I'm actually okay. Tell you what. Here's what we'll do. We're gonna pull up a calculator. Okay, let me see. 16. Okay. Everyone, follow along with me. Then plus 18, plus 21. Okay, and then we're gonna do plus 25. Look at, dude, I'm a mathematician here. Plus 30, and then plus 27. So the Shadow Dragons have 137 million HP. Okay, perfect. How much does Frieza have? So we got 15 plus 26 plus 30 plus 35 plus 41. 147 million, yeah. So Frieza has the most health, I believe, out of any of these red zone bosses that you have to cut through. So, it's just a very long fight. Okay, so next, this might be surprising for people, but it's Omega. I think Omega Omega's a pretty tough fight, right? For sure, right? Like, we know Omega, I think, was a good baseline for a while. The 450,000 damage normal is the 1.575 million damage super attack. But, I mean, we can just flat out talk about this guy, where his super attack is. He does a countdown super attack, right? Let's look at some of these red zone bosses, like, I don't know, Final Form Cooler. 1.52, he doesn't have a countdown, and this is phase 2. You go right into the shit, right? It's not like, Omega, where it's like, all right, let's go through this 31 million HP, then this 40 million HP, we've built up a bunch, now we're at this guy. Final Form Cooler, you're just right there. He's face to face with you 2 turns in. Let's take a look at Metal Cooler, right? 1.26, right? Certainly not the nastiest shit ever, right? But this dude is healing. The Cyclopean Guard is doing a lot of damage. Turn 1, 750,000. And then this guy is doing about as much damage as Omega with normals. Just how fast, raw, and hard this is right here. We will say this. I think Metal Cooler is 4. I think Metal Cooler is a little bit tougher here. I've had a little bit more trouble with him, I feel like, than a lot of these, bosses against Omega. And then we'll also pull in Final Form Cooler right here. Whoops. Wait, what? I literally just accidentally... Okay, yeah. Okay, no, here. Yeah, okay, there we go. Okay, so this guy is at 3. Now, when we talk about this Final Form Cooler right here, he is basically the hardest hitting boss turn 1. This 800,000 right there, you don't really experience that level of damage from too many bosses. This guy is a real problem. I've tried this fight with a lot of 200% teams, Goku and Gohan, Blue Goku and Vegeta, Ginyu Force, right? This cooler just wrecks most of these teams, man. He just does so much damage so fast. There's nothing you could do a lot of the times. He just hits so hard, right? It's like you really just need like to dodge shit, basically. Some of these teams just are not really built for this level, right? This stage right here, this is built for Carnival Goku. This is built for LR Metal Cooler and LR Final Form Cooler, right? Some of these earlier 200% lead teams from earlier in the year, these fights can be tricky, man. These are really tough. So there's that. All right, so the next two. All right, so let's grab Broly. Now here's the thing with the Broly fight. I actually have Broly number 1. Okay. Broly is the hardest fight in the game because his gimmicks, I think, are just too strong, right? So we all know the bullshit that Broly does. Number 1, you can't dodge him. Dodging is the strongest thing you could do. Again, if you dodge every single attack, you have 0% chance to lose. Dodging is the strongest thing you can do. Broly cancels dodge, so immediately you cannot dodge him. That takes away a lot of strategy, right? I feel like dodge and a lot of characters' hidden potentials is a good idea. A lot of dodging characters like LRUI Goku are just completely taken out of this fight, and that makes it really tough. AoE Broly is doing 840,000 damage the entire rotation. Very tough to get through. Then you get to this guy, 1.2 million damage, and then he's doing 2 of these per turn. It's just hell. I think this is still only Cell Max is harder, and this is like within reach of Cell Max because you can't dodge in here, right? You go against Cell Max and you can dodge you could get lucky and dodge every single attack thrown at you, right? And you're good. Against Broly, you can't do that. Dodge canceling is just so tough to deal with. Now the Metal Cooler core, right? I've seen a lot of people, oh, it's not that bad, right? They're using their LR Gods teams, or using their Vegeta and Trunks. Your Final Form Cooler obliterates this guy because he's physical, right? You bring in Final Form Cooler could basically kill this guy in 1 turn, essentially, right? Like, it's, you have him next to Easy SCR Cooler, that could be GG very fast. This fight is brutal. Again, take some of these other 200% teams in here against this Metal Cooler army right here, turn 1, double supering. That's lowering your defense. They shred you, dude. You need to lower their attack with some of these lesser teams. I literally just went in here and, Dokkan Fest Pan and her team, and Pan was killed before the turn even started, right? Pan, with her damage reduction in slot 1, instant death, right? Just was not even able to handle it, right? This fight is tough. This guy popping his super attacks. This Metal Cooler core, only Cell Max is hitting you harder than the Metal Cooler core. But then this piece of shit raises his attack, and then after he super attacks, which again is the hardest hitting hit in the game besides like Cell Max or I don't know, like the Spirit Bombs in some of these Dokkan events or something like that. Then his damage goes up. He becomes the hardest hitting normal boss in the game besides Cell Max too, right? Because he gets this 30% for the rest of the turn. Any attacks after that, he's hitting for like 550 or some shit like that. Like it's dude, this is a tough fight. Like, people are getting lulled to sleep by how busted these current teams are. I'm telling y'all, like, if they gave this guy any more, he's tougher than Cell Max. And then people are really crying the tears, right? Like, these fights ain't that free. I'm telling you, like, it's tough. And then this guy with his seal, right? 60% of the time he'll seal a character. That can be I literally had a run last night with Carnival Goku. I was trying to no-item this guy, and he just kept sealing characters. It was Easy Namek Goku. He just kept sealing him, right? And it's like that Namek Goku could do a lot of damage. He's stacking defense. You just get that turn after turn after turn, and like this guy will just he does too much damage, right? Like bosses like this, like you can't just sit there and eat their supers forever. Like at some point you got to be doing damage to them too, right? Like you're just taking too much unless you're gonna dodge, and that's why I have the Metal Cooler core at 2 and Broly at 1, because you guys know I really mean this. If you are not putting at least 3 dodge on your characters, I really think you are playing wrong. I'm serious. At least giving yourself a chance. these bosses are doing too much nowadays, man. Like, you can't, I don't know, like, people, like, just, like, they don't even give themselves a chance. If you get caught by these bosses, you're dead. At least for the 3% chance to dodge, like, you can do it. Like, I've had so many runs, one with dodges, they're hitting too hard. Most characters can't take these over 1 million damage hits, right? Like you need to be getting some dodges in on some of these attacks by these bosses, because you can't just sit in front of their face, you know, all day long against these guys. They're hitting too hard. These bosses are hitting way too hard nowadays, so you have got to adjust, right? I'm telling you, like, don't be scared. People are going to be crying when I'm running these full dodge builds, but, like, hello, I'm, you know, taking these teams and sweeping all these red zone stages. Like, I know what I need, and I need the ability to not eat these 1.7 million damage supers to the mouth on a lot of these characters that can't take it, right? You know, these bosses are very, very difficult, right? Now, I'm gonna take a guess here, right? So again, they dropped Cell Max. Cell Max, I think, is tougher than all these fights. These red zone stages are, you know, they're on par with, you know, Broly and Omega and stuff like that. Metal Cooler, Final Form Cooler, and the Metal Cooler Core. I don't expect we would see a tougher fight in the game beyond these red zone fights or beyond Cell Max. Maybe when the next superhero celebration part happens. Because remember, there is going to be a second stage to the Cell Max event. Maybe it'll be Beast Gohan in there. Maybe it'll just be a tougher version of Cell Max, right? I would think the next time we're probably going to get, like, tougher stages. Hopefully, I like the design of these red zone stages. I do a lot. So I hopefully they'll do, like, whatever the theme is of, I don't know, maybe they could, I've seen people throw out, like, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan and, like, Beast Gohan for anniversary or something like that. Sure, man. Like, maybe they do, like, a hybrid Saiyan red zone, right, for anniversary, right? And then I'm sure, like, those fights would be a step above, right? But I feel like they did a really good job with these Wicked Bloodline red zone stages. They're pretty well designed of being actually very difficult unless you have the nastiest characters, right? You know what it is if you got your Carnival Goku, you got your Final Form Cooler, you're chilling, right? Like, yeah, you'll be all right. But, you know, it's like, if you're a JP player, you got to rely on the Pan team or the Resurrection F Blues or something like that. Like, yeah, it's a little bit more dicey. The gods are good because all these busted characters are on the gods team, right? All these crazy movie hero characters and shit like that too. But a lot of these 200% led teams, you know, you're really doing very difficult battle with these new Wicked Bloodline stages of Red Zone. So let me know what you guys think. A lot of these fights don't really mean anything. It's like, really, once you get to, like, the first cooler fight, that's when things start to get a little bit tough. I think the top 10 is where things are very, very rough, though. So let me know how you guys would rank them. Again, I see no way. There's no way you could say any of these fights are tougher than Broly, man. Canceling dodge is just, it's so devastating, right? Because dodge would be so good against that AoE super attack that he does, too. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch y'all next time.